Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Haley Mitchell-Haugen. I'm a professor of English at Ohio University's Southern Campus in Ironton, Ohio. And it's my privilege tonight to open up our event celebrating the publication of the poetry anthology, I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing, Ohio's Appalachian Voices. I'm so honored to have served along with fellow poet David Prather and editor Kari Gunter-Seymour as a juror for the collection. My small press, Sheila-Na-Gig Editions, also served as publisher for the book, which has been an amazing opportunity. So I'm doubly honored. We have an outstanding lineup of readers for today's event, but before we begin, I'd like to note, of course, that none of this would be possible without the hard work and extreme dedication of Kari Gunter-Seymour. Kari Gunter-Seymour is the Poet Laureate of Ohio and a recipient of the 2021 Academy of American Poets Laureate Fellowship. Her poetry collections include A Place So Deep Inside America, It Can't Be Seen by Sheila-Na-Gig Editions, which won the 2020 Ohio Poet of the Year Award, and the chapbook Serving by Crisis Chronicles Press in 2018. Her poems have appeared in numerous journals and publications, including Rattle, One, the LA Times, New York Times. Her work has been featured on Verse Daily, Cultural Daily, World Literature Today, and Poem a Day. A ninth-generation Appalachian, she is the editor of I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing, Ohio's Appalachian Voices, and Women of Appalachia Project anthology series Women Speak. Gunter-Seymour is the founder, curator, and host of Spoken and Heard, a seasonal performance series featuring poets, writers, and musicians from across the country. She is an artist in residence at the Wexner Center for the Arts and a 2021-22 Pillar of Prosperity Fellow for the Foundation for Appalachian, Ohio. I will post links to Kari's website and her books in our chat, and I'll also be posting a link for purchasing the anthology. I do offer a contributor's price at these events and free shipping. So I do hope if you don't have the book already that you'll check it out. Please help me welcome Kari Gunter-Seymour.
Hey, everybody. Oh, gosh, thank you, Haley. I have so many people to thank, so I'd like to take just a moment to do that. First of all, I want to thank the Academy of American Poets and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation for taking this chance on me and my dream by selecting the fellowship proposal that I put forth to create an anthology that was focused specifically on Ohio's Appalachian population, something that's never been done before. Some people forget, and some people don't even know, that a quarter of the state of Ohio rests in Appalachia proper, and that pockets of Appalachians exist throughout the state, huge, thriving pockets, as we found out when we got everybody put together in this book. So we're very excited about it. I want to thank the Ohio Arts Council. In my time as Ohio Poet Laureate, they have championed and aided me and supported me through so many projects, including Cardinal Sing. My next thank you is a huge one going out to the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio. FAO does so many good works, it's nearly impossible to keep up with them, but one of their programs is the Child of Appalachia program, which this kind of fell under because I am a child of Appalachia. And so they matched funding so that we could put a copy of I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing in every public library in Ohio. And as if that wasn't enough, they also came up with funding to put a copy of the anthology in every middle and high school, Appalachian middle and high school. So that was another nearly 500 copies of the book going out, because our teens, they need that. They need to be proud of where they come from, not embarrassed. Because we were talking earlier, you know, people are still calling Appalachians hillbillies and hicks. And saying that we're undergroomed and overfed and undereducated. And we know we are so much more than that. If we're undergroomed, it's because we're working really hard. It's because we've been out in the fields, or we're down in the mines, or we're across the ocean fighting the wars, right? So that's, if we're undergroomed, that's why we're undergroomed. So I also, of course, want to give a huge thank you to David Prather as one of the preliminary jurors, to Christine Williams, who served as our line editor. And I have to tell you, she was just amazing. She turned things around for us within a couple of weeks' time, and this was a huge undertaking. And of course, Haley Mitchell-Haugen. Oh my goodness. She's a one-woman press. I love it because she's just across the river from Ironton, Ohio. So she's one of us. She teaches at OU Southern there. She's a full professor. This is not the first wild hayride she's taken with me. So, you know, she's a brave woman. I'd like to just very quickly do a shout out to all the event sponsors. We launched at the Mercantile Library in Cincinnati, sponsored by the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition. We were at Otterbein College, sponsored by the the Ohio Poetry Association. We're tonight at Ohio University Southern. We'll be at Marietta College next week. We will be in Lit Youngstown and sponsored by Lit Youngstown at the Soap Gallery on April the 23rd. We will be in Akron at Summit Art Space on May the 7th. We'll be doing the Toledo County, Lucas County Public Library on May 14th, sponsored by Uncloistered Poetry. We will be doing another virtual event at Ohio University main campus, sponsored by the Multicultural Center. In June, we'll be going to the Cuyahoga County Public Library. That's June 11th. And then back with the Ohio Poetry Association for the National Federation of State Poetry Societies Convention. We're going to go to Sandusky in September, on September the 10th, sponsored by Bottom Dog Press. Sponsored by Sandusky Library, but that is the home of Bottom Dog Press. So we love Sandusky. And in October, we'll be at the Johnson Hummerick House Museum, and that's in Conshohocken, and that's October the 15th. And I do have other people who are contacting me and trying to set up readings going into the fall. But more than anything else, or on top of all these wonderful people who have joined me in this venture, I want to thank all of my poets, because they took a huge risk. Our work is so special to us. It's so meaningful, and it's difficult as an artist writer to put your work out there to be judged, and to be labeled Appalachian is another layer of that. And I think it was such a brave and wonderful thing that each and every single one of these poets included in this book, which there are 134, we received nearly 700 poems, and there are 138 poems in this beautiful book. And I wish I could have taken every single one. But I thank you all so much for trusting me with your work, and given it's a tribute to Ohio's amazing, incredible, enduring Appalachians. So thank you so much for that. And I just wanted to touch on one other thing, especially for those visiting with us tonight. I wonder if any of you have ever Googled the definition, define what is Appalachia, the definition of Appalachia. So I did that. And some of you, it seems like some of you have already too. But here's what I found. I found this peculiar, and this is just one part of it. A region in eastern United States in the area of Appalachian Mountains, including Northeast Alabama, Northwest Georgia, Northwest South Carolina, East Tennessee, West Virginia, Southwest Pennsylvania. What? Where's Ohio? Where's North Carolina? Where's Virginia? Where's New York? Right? Or here's another one of my favorites. White Hill people. White Hill people. That's a quote. That's what they, in the 1930s, that's exactly what they said for the census. That Appalachia was made up of ignorant white hill people, poorly educated. And that's what we're dealing with. First of all, they don't even recognize Ohio as Appalachian. And then, as we know, we have our wonderful Appalachian brothers and sisters, our indigenous, we have our LGBTQ, our non-binary, we have teens, we have adults, and all in between, creatively aging. We have those in recovery. We have those, this is the first time they've ever published, and we have those who are so well established and beloved. So it's no wonder our young people hesitate to admit that they're Appalachian. But, and maybe some of you don't either, but hopefully this book is going to bring us all together so that we can be very, very proud of where we come from. And so I've blabbed enough, and I'm just going to turn things over. And our very first reader is Roy Bentley, and I'm so excited for y'all to hear everybody tonight.
Thank you. And I will kick it off with Bright Lights and Country Music. First of all, though, thanks for finding a place for me in this. And I embrace hillbilly. Bright Lights and Country Music. In 1965, I'm 11 and listening to a transoceanic zenith radio. Bill Anderson is singing like country music is God's voice, nothing more, nothing less. I'm a lanky kid lying in bed beside his father, who is smoking a cigarette in a t-shirt and pajama bottoms. A father who favors a music with twang, since we're hillbillies. They're on the mend, my mother and him, having been divorced for some time. Tonight he's visiting from the town I will soon finish growing up in, grow old in. He wants me to say yes to the move. But he's talking, dragging us to live with strangers. We're listening to the Opry, and he says Gene Howard, his uncle, bought a floor model zenith for the house he was raised in after his mother was institutionalized. He describes them listening on Saturday nights, 6:50 a.m. WSM out of Nashville. After he says the word sanitarium, he turns off the light. The dial of the transoceanic glows like a lit cigarette, like the one burning in his hand in shared darkness. And the second poem I'm going to read here is called Beautiful Plenty. And it gives me an opportunity to plug this book, which is my latest and which is out from Main Street Rag. If you care to have it look or give it a look. Beautiful Plenty. At 30, my father drove a Cadillac in all weather. Maple seeds spun down onto the wax job of a hood, a black hood, black his preferred color in automobiles. He owned 2 Cadillacs, his and hers, both of which he forfeited, divorcing my mother, who saw not a cent. When the divorce was final, he remarried, had a child with another woman, said that wasn't what he wanted, another family. Some weekends he came around, we'd go on walks. I remember walking by the river in Dayton. He said, you know, 5 rivers converge here, and named 4 out of 5 by a botanical garden, gemmy with rain. Then he said, that's the great Miami, and looked off in the direction of an orchard, the bright and unforgettable scent of the ripe fruit, the definition of beautiful plenty. On a bank, a rotted boat sat. Someone said every boat, new or old, is looking for a place to sink. And he said something similar, my father, no fan of boats. Maybe he supposed the one we saw was like their marriage, as gone to rot and about useless as the oars to row it. My parents were poor kids from Eastern Kentucky, who spoke a language of want I wasn't fluent in. We never saw plenty again, thanks to him. It was around that time my mother got a job in a factory, which must have pissed her off because she got tough with the world and with herself. tough and satisfied because her face and Ava Gardner outline glistened brighter than anyone with a beating heart. When she stood anywhere near that next car he kept so immaculate you could see a version of yourself in every shiny midnight black inch of fender and hood. And when they got remarried, there was the matter of the kid he'd had, which she made him support, though she wrote out the monthly checks herself and stamped and mailed them, just to be sure. Thanks a lot.
I'm Kathleen Burgess. The 1900 census shows Grandpa, a 7-year-old servant in Virginia. At 14, he ran away, walked all the way to Southern Ohio, found work, married a local farm girl. My family moved to Chillicothe to teach in my grandparents' beautiful land and live closer to my husband's kin, Appalachian, since the 1700s. The Great Flood. Ohio River, January through February 1937. This is for my husband, Jack Burgess, who was born shortly after. Mice-footed it comes, then like a plague it oozes over Portsmouth's floodgates. Water infests basements, creeps upstairs. It soils food on tables. A man rows streets, sheen silver in surging waves. Claude Burgess is taking his family, pregnant wife Pearl and 4-year-old Dick, to high ground in New Boston. She holds a basket of food, a toy car, change of clothes, dry blankets. Pearl and 4 other pregnant women with children will sleep on a wood floor. Claude goes back to row sisters, neighbors, anyone stranded, their parcels soaked by the deluge. Sundown, sore, wet back, arms, hands, feet, roiling dreams of mouse gray water swarming. Daylight, where is the porch of this house his father built? Submerged. The boat Claude built? Taut rope says the John boat is wedged beneath the outdoor steps. In only his shorts, he slides into that cold river, gasps and follows the line, wrestles the boat. Uprooted things bump past, into him. His lungs are burning, up for air. Underwater, he unties the boat, climbs a pier, hauls up, reties it. It bucks hard. He cloaks in blankets, lights fireplace wood, shivers, hanging clothes by the fire, rows on in his sleep. Daylight. He helps town folk out windows, off roofs. 12 days of this. Each night crawling from hills thick, feared like the muck-fouling homes of a million homeless people. The menace retreats to its banks. Now flood survivors from Pittsburgh to Cairo begin their search to save from ruin whatever the Ohios left behind. She births Jack in the home they've cleaned out. Claude and Pearl leave nothing, no one behind. The title of the next poem begins it. The boy was 2 or 3 years old. He did not talk much, collected whatever appealed to him willy-nilly, rocks, burnt matchsticks, tabs from beverage cans. He laid them in lines on bedroom shelves, a front porch rail, the gravel drive, like any boy collecting matchbox cars, action figures, game cards. Mom opened the kitchen door onto the deck. She saw him on the walkout patio, little feet, thin legs pale in dinosaur print shorts as he flailed a wiffle bat. He was pounding something with it. She flew down steps from the deck, thinking he might be cracking open a toy or a mouse one of the cats had dragged home. But the object of his swinging and cudgeling was a hummingbird. Hummingbird. Female, limp, still in the sun. How and why he found it, beat it, she could not know. Maybe it had scared him buzzing above his head into flowers, or sky reflected in a glass door. Maybe it fell stunned. She knew death took hold, often in this way. Something rubbed along her ankles to make a claim. Gently, she took the bat from the small boy hands. He shivered and sweated, his eyes glazed as if daydreaming. She lifted him, the boy, carried him inside. Later, she prepared a box for the bird so that they might scoop up the still form and place it just so. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Helton. I'm here as a hybrid, 30 years in Toledo and the last 12 in Appalachian, Kentucky. I have one poem. The Elements. Migration to the colonies, turned nation, turned empire. From farm to city, suburbs to farm, cobblestone to asphalt, city to mountains, sailboat, horseback, train, carriage, steamboat, rural dirt road, big wide highway. Continual dribbling south with each generation, Massachusetts, New York, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, about to fall off into Tennessee. Cross river, fjord, ocean, canal, river, bog, lake, channel, ocean, river, river. What survived the Atlantic crossings? Knitting the German way. Mint sauce on mushy peas. Vinegar on fish. Floyd, Protestantism. How my DNA rises up when I hear a Hardinger fiddle or bagpipes. Some harmonic drone to a sad melody. How mossy stones know me. How fog shushes me still. The rest is retroactive. Where did Mama's name come from? What were the names of the vessels that ferried them to this hemisphere? Who gathered Hilda and the kids at Ellis Island and ushered them west? Which of my colonial disease debating revolution? Why did Grandpa desert the New York cavalry during the Civil War? Who survived the Nazi occupation in Norway? Does the baby dad left in England know whatever man raised her isn't her blood? Why did that ruined abbey in Wales make me cry so hard? Migration pushed few things through the sieve. This push to be American. Change your name, change the food, the clothes, the bending of your vowels. Which letters are still in the alphabet? Don't teach and even names, nor where they buried our brothers, nor to whom they married off our sisters. Thank you.
Hello, this is Clarissa Jacobsons, and I unfortunately was born in Germany at the end of World War II, but I've lived in Ohio since high school, and the many retreats and poetry gatherings that I have attended have harbored the Appalachian voices in my body and in my bones. So I will start with Hostile Spaces. Swallow poems churn words beyond the hill of trees. Curled leaves tremble from heaven's embrace. The painter's brush freezes each moment. Two firm crosses anchor an empty laundry line, while a stiff American flag wavers on Malabar Farm. Stacked wooden logs brace each other as diesel fumes trail roadside and the geese holler across the pond. Ducks and sparrows answer free-range questions. Cobwebs fill a watering can next to a shovel and resting broom. Scattered stars and poets are planted on earth with hungry pangs, while chickadees peck and squawk surround the empty swing. Celi's ghost glides back and forth. Her hand extends throughout the day. Silent pens rush behind the fire pit. Lavender touches matrix glow. I kiss pink thyme, Hopley's oregano against chipped white paint with Kentucky spearmint. Brittle leaves dust a baby's cry. Sage wind gods dust Malabar Farm. Come, sit with us, Celi Rose. Does my picture come up? I don't see it on here. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. Moonlight, Martin's Ferry, honoring James Wright. The orb of night wanes, embracing coolness as poplar leaves tumble through air to ground in broken thoughts. Gather gala apples for winter's hearth before our year passes. Embrace sunlight's energy. Dance naked under the moon's umbrella. Shift thoughts, bake bread, forgive what ails. Thank you so very much.
I'm Kevin Lemaster. I grew up in South Shore, Kentucky, which is about 5 miles from Portsmouth, Ohio. I shop, work, play, eat in Ohio. So most of the time I'm there and not here. So Toll Takers, 1972. From the road, you can no longer see the hut where the old men stayed when there was nothing to do. No more cars would pull up slow to the lowered gate. No one waited to press the small tan and red ticket into a willing, withered palm just to gain entrance to the tall steel frame bridge that spanned the Ohio. They would dress in their white tee and suspenders, wreathed in thick gray smoke from their black bowled pipes, chatting about rainbow trout biting upriver, the steady growth of their grandchildren, and modernization, a time when they would no longer be useful, a time when bridges would be free access and patrons could come and go as they pleased. I can see them laughing at its absurdity, some spitting tobacco juice into a spittoon on the floor next to them, others clutching their pipes for dear life, holding the past in their bare hands. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to take a stab at reading one poem tonight, and then I will come back later and I'm going to read for someone else. And this is just a little poem that I have in the book, and it's called Because Coal. I want us to remember coal is in Ohio. Ohio was coal mining. The last star's arc dim the sash. Wails the pitch of a coal mine siren quiver my temporal bone. A song to dig a hole. My grandfather's cull-caked, muscle and blood yoked to Peabody scrip, sinking shaft or pit, railroad cars tippled, cinder and soot smutting miles of track, valley fills steeped in acid spoil, 100 years of forest sheared. Pained as I am to reflect, my great-greats, pigeon-toed, gap-mouthed, pondering how the hard-working find themselves both proud and begging, held fast like a flag that never waves. Who hasn't rationalized themselves a noble son or daughter, their life tightly squeezed between two fists? Tonight, roaming the ether, I visit their graves. Blush pink peonies to decorate each stone. Saying nothing, I write, one finger in the dust. Fire in our hearts, fire in our souls, together forever, down in the hole.
Hello everyone, my name is Brooklyn Langle. I'm 17 and this is my first poetry publication, so I'm very excited to be here with you all tonight. I'm going to read my poem, A Quiet Song. Today the cardinals sing quietly. Coyotes howl their mournful song, a chorus echoed in every yard, and from the ponds the frogs croak a refrain, that the flies return with a lonely melody, but the cardinals sing quietly. Their song is an ode of joy, a spot of red against the white snow, their song swallowed by the noises of life, clawed feet clutched onto decaying branches, music alive in each gnarled trunk, in every coop and barn, in the quiet hum of every home, as the winter brings a silence so thick that for a moment it bears a clarity, wherein the subtle crescendo becomes a symphony.
Hi, all. I'm Kathy Coltais-Lentis, and I'm a native Ohioan. And for the last 30 plus years, I've lived on an old wooded farm in the wilds of Meigs County, which is nestled in Appalachian's foothills. I have one poem in the anthology, and it's called The Wild. He's come to this place for years, first as a boy learning manhood, the killing of what's best to eat, the killing of what's deemed pest. His people run deep here. With pride, he tells of the Bible, curling with unreadable script, scooped from the mud by his second great-granny, as Confederate Morgan and his raiders roared through. His father gone 2 years. He returns to the woods he loves, remembering dank days on foot following deer trails up, and over hills dense with sumac, towering sycamore and maple. The hard quiet of waiting, still as a rabbit, hunkered low like leaf debris on the forest floor, or perched high as a crow in a bare-limbed tree, still and serious, waiting for buck or doe to break cover. Gun poised, tension rising in his gut, shoulders hard, hands steady. Patience, patience, pop and recoil. These days, he and his brothers and their sons mount four-wheelers before dawn, motor to tree stands, or hunker with heat packs in a blind, sipping coffee from a Yeti jug. The deer follow old trails, rely on familiar scent and sound, flash the same white flags as their ancestors, hiding when the world says, be still. The wild, ripe with bobcat spray, coyote scat, the musk and babble of men.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Maddox, and I am loving hearing all of your poems, so thank you. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, but I have family ties on both sides to Portsmouth and to Chillicothe, and through my great-grand-uncle, baseball legend Branch Rickey, to Duck Run and to Turkey Creek. So I'll read two poems for you today. This is a pantoum. Branch Rickey, Turkey Creek, one-room schoolhouse. 17, a farm boy from Duck Run, Branch knew those school walls housed bullies who spat tobacco juice in teachers' eyes, then beat them bloody, bruised. He took the job anyway, stood up, stood firm within those schoolhouse walls. Bullies who spat later sat and learned what the hills and river tell. Take the job anyway, stand up, stand firm, protect the place you love. The young ones who sit and listen learn later what the hills and rivers tell. What you become, you pass on. Protect the place you love. The young ones who watch stand up for young ones who watch, who you become in Turkey Creek or Duck Run. Who knows these fields and mountains knows this. Watch how the younger ones watching you standing up to bullies. Home remembers your name, knows how these fields and hills know you. These country roads are yours. In every town, every ballpark, name the bullies. Remember your home, your name, how at 17, just a farm boy from Duck Run, Branch knew what this country could be. Every dirt road, city lot, ballpark, Robinson deserved to play. Each day, stand up, stand firm. At 17, farm boy from Duck Run, Branch knew how bullies spit, dig in cleats, bruise skin blacker. Robinson deserved to play. Watch how he stood up for those who watched. Stand firm. Together they fought for what they loved. Remember your home, their names, till bullies spit, cleats spike, skin bruises blacker, a little less. Use the job. Stand up, stand firm, again, again, again. Young ones, fight for the world you love. Remember your home. Name the hills and rivers, what they tell you of yourself again and again. Take the hard job. Stand up, stand firm. What you become, you pass on. Those hills, 1960s. Before backseat seatbelts, we rode those Hocking hills unhindered. My artist aunt steering her VW camper wildly toward each new view, whiplashing us into awe. Once settled, she painted, we investigated. The land a courteous, quiet guide, leaving us to creek and our own best devices. By day, we hiked the trails of cliff and gorge, waded ankle deep across slate where my, quote, cedar fell at Cedar Falls, a family joke still repeated. By night, we campfired our way into legend, the hermit lore of Old Man's Cave, the shadows of rock bridges and hidden trolls, and what would and wouldn't be beyond the moss and ferns, beyond those canopies of dream-like explorations, still here in the brain's rocky terrain, the twisty map of memory, where beneath the last waterfall, we wait for all our long ago lost ones, deep in those dense woods, those sunlit hills of Hawking. Thank you.
Thank you, Kari, for having my work in your beautiful book. I'm John Manoni from Knoxville, Tennessee, and my connection to Ohio is that in the early to mid 90s, I was consulting Perry Nuclear Power Station there as a nuclear scientist. My poem is Speculators, and it's on page 125. The epigraph reads, Appalachia during Reconstruction. Speculators. They wielded the same kind of dirty carpet bags I saw down south, full of dust-filled promises. What were they planning to do with all the worthless land they'd be taking off my hands? I didn't hear the scarlet tanagers or the pine warblers miss the notes in their songs as I signed the papers. I didn't smell deceit on the ink and must-stained documents, only the sweet honeysuckle outside. But soon my ears would burn when I heard the truth. My mouth left acrid, my tongue stumbling on the cheap texture of lies. Blinded, I couldn't see the sun setting behind the grieving mountains. Shadows veiling their purpled faces, river babbling regret down below. I know it won't wash my sin away. Just like they swindled us out of our common land, the rocky wilderness for timber, coal, and tan bark with chicanery and fancy laws on corporate enclosure. They'd be digging out the ore, draining gas and oil, and the hearts and minds of simple mountain people. I should have known when they came in those lawyer suits, wearing those uppity smiles, swinging satchels with their promise me the moon, but give me the gutter looks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Preston Martin, and I'm really pleased to be here with everyone. And my action adventure poem on page 101 is a true story. It happened at 850 Tri-County Road in Winchester, Ohio, the farm that goes back into the 20s, and everyone's buried there. My cousins, everybody, we traveled through Winchester, Ohio. It's a true story. No names have been changed. And I'm going to say that everything is true all the way down to the last period. Page 101, Twilight Flight. The yellow crop duster sneaks up behind as we unwind another day on the porch. The engine screams as the nervous plane zips above, nearly clips power lines, swoops like another bird of prey to lay a cloud of mist on soybean rows lining Pettit's long field. It arches its back at Row's End and circles in noisy view, zeroing next pass. By now we're in the yard, Mary Lou and me, Bill and Marion, who stopped to tell us the mill will close. On the duster's third pass, all necks swivel as one. It clears wires even closer to swan dive the beans. One more flyby, the engine sings, the plane arcs and curls into twilight, and like that, I'm in the cockpit over our little town. I see where Granddad's church burned, where the school used to be. Find Cherry Fork as darkness closes. Leaning south, I straddle the river below Manchester, Ohio and Kentucky to right and left. I cheer the motor song. The giddy lights of Maysville slide beneath. Streaks of color bob the current. the stars almost in reach. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Schomburg-Kanke, and I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and now live in Tallahassee, Florida. But I lived for 17 years in Athens County and have had people in Scioto County since the early 1800s. So glad to be here tonight. This poem is called Rock Riffle Road Homily. Sing now praises of Chip and Seal, 5 years to pass that levee. Joyful Fords and Chevys as road dust doesn't coat our cars and ruts from spring rains fill less deeply. Raise your voices, glory to tiger lilies dotting low spaces and ditches, Joe Pyeweed, chicory, and teasel. But be not afraid to dig some out when they've grown too dense, stopping the flow of the runoff water. They will begat anew come May Day. Dance, dance, dance your abundance. July brings the escape of the cow and her calf. Though she knows you are a respectful neighbor, calling her owner each year when she hides in woods you pay the taxes on, enjoying small moments of solace before her young goes off to slaughter. And this next one is even less uplifting. This is called They Came to Show How Safe the Mine, after the Millfield mine disaster, November 5th, 1930. Using sheets of burlap, mud, and sticks, they built their nests like wrens, whatever bits to block the gas. Men were loading coal and thinking on lunch when a wire hit the rail back down an unused broken stretch. What need was there for power on that line? Small pockets of men scrabbled the shafts to reach good air up near the top. Rumor spreading fast as carbon monoxide. Top company men, cuckoos one and all, were touring the mine that morning. Some bodies were laid out in the pool hall, others in the company's store. A few burned from the fire. 80 bloated and turned as they tried to make their bodies use the unusable. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roberta Schultz, and I'm in Wilder, Kentucky. But my connection to Appalachian, Ohio is that my Grandma Babe's parents met each other and grew up in Mix County. Rock pile. I hurt when I first see the slabs, some as long as human bodies, unearthed by the power company as they dig up our old gas line. A massive pile of limestone erupts the smooth plain of the dried lake bed. Like shattered bone through skin, it juts in jagged angles, painful to see, painful to consider. They drill and doze for days, shaking the hill with machines that resemble giant mosquitoes. Yellow proboscises suck into soil, tube fresh veins for new pipe. I hurt less now that vines and fleabane reclaim the rocks back into landscape. A company man comes to halt the dig. Wires crossed, he says, some confusion. We've decided to abandon this pipeline. Never an apology. Never an explanation. I learned from the earth how to cover wounds, bind them tight in fast-growing tangle, soothe broken skin with a poultice of berries. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patricia Thrushart, and I live in northern Appalachia, just over the Ohio border. My poem is called Sojourner Truth, and it's based on a letter written by William Hayward to William Lloyd Garrison in 1858. Sojourner Truth. We should keep things going while things are stirring. I am the truth speaker come to Ohio, pleading the plight of women, the plight of the slave. I am God called. Truth is powerful, and it prevails. You accuse me of being a man, betrayed by strength and height and eloquence, and want proof of my womanhood. I will shake every place I go to. Here are the black breasts that suckled many a white baby who grew more manly than you, while my own lay hungry. Look now to your lasting shame and my everlasting resolve. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm back because I would like to share some poetry from our dear friend, Susan Shepard, who left us way too soon. Susan was a native West Virginian of Lenape, that's Delaware, Shawnee and European ancestry, and descended from some of West Virginia's earliest settlers. She was much beloved by her daughter, Scarlett, and her Ohio friends across the river with whom she traveled, workshopped poems, and shared her extraordinary spiritual experiences. And so I wanted to share her poems tonight, though I cannot do them the justice that she herself would do. I love the idea of having her with us in the room tonight. This one is The Indians on the Hill. Once my grandmother and her sister overheard a clerk in a small town dress shop whisper to the other, "Don't wait on them. They look like Dagos." Ashamed, my grandmother quickly left. They did not know what Dago meant, but they knew it must mean something bad. Years later, high on a hill, earth gave way to buffeting winds, shook the mulberry trees into fists. I dream-walked in skin slippers over rib cages of ancestors inside the world's drum, with faces broad as clay pots, as skeins of clouds layered back into the breath of woods. Below me, in a tin can house, another Saponi grandmother sat under green awning, face dark as chestnut, apron pinned to her dress, wearing men's shoes. The grandmother clutched her cane between her knees. We stared. I crouched at the edge of her garden. I was 5, with umber wing of hair over my eye, face smeared with the war paint of pokeberries. She gazed through milky cataracts as I grabbed dirt loose as soap powders, then flung it where crows argued with the jays. Grandmother said nothing. Lost in the purple cabbages, the glint of pie plates sent out codes in the wasting sun. There was nothing for me to do but go home. Later, red spirits multiplied into the evening. I felt them through my hair, glimpsed their spirits weaving through trees bloody and painted. I see my Lenape great-grandmother wringing cloth, rinsing pale moons of fingernails of sienna-skinned hands in creek water, only to be shut away later in the Trans-Allegheny lunatic asylum to die alone. We never found her grave, but fell into her way of drying out gourds, for seed rattles hung like otter skulls from a rope. Through the smell of dying fields, I ran into the arms of my grandfather, who quieted the evening into dreams. That night, we found crow feathers left on the stone walk like obsidian blades on the way to the toilet. And those eyeless pelts of fox stretched over the outhouse door. Grandma stayed inside to stitch together cast-off rags into wondrous designs. Grandma and her sister never went back to that store. And this poem, Snap Apple Night. I fall asleep to the briar songs of witches, those who circle me with miniature bells attached to thorn fingers, the ones that unleash the golden fruit that falls on some black, unholy ground, left to simmer and swarm like other brooding souls. Among the bearded hags of trees, I turned those stones into conjurers' bones to let them rattle in my pockets. I know this darkness will cause my cells to open like ghost flowers as my body hums alone on its bed and my skeleton rises from its sleep to walk down a lonely road. Thank you, Susan. Stephanie, are you still with us?
I'm sorry, Karen Shubert is before me in the list.
No, you're next.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you so much, Kari and Haley and David, for the work you put into this. I am a 13th generation Appalachian, thanks to some Scottish rebels who came here unwillingly and settled in Pikeville, Kentucky. I like to think they wrote a lot of poetry about the war and raised a lot of hell. The first poem I'm going to read is Mema Comes Back a Cardinal. She visits at the window while I wash yesterday's dishes, my hands as wrinkled as hers before she grew into her wings. This is the longest we've been together without days of our lives or other scripted sermons filling the silence of the decades between us. She is still as gray and sings her own songs of faith that entice even the worms who have burrowed the deepest. I still can't land the harmony, but try to find the pitch, even now, knowing full well her songs were never meant for me. And a closed road ahead. The road is crumbling in the center of town. Promises of a sinkhole elate the children, propel them to chatter of the center of earth, mysteries that widen their eyes, tiny globed galaxies, light years away. They have been warned, stars sting to the touch, and all we are was already in space anyway. So they race to the center of town and dance in the soup bowl asphalt, hungry for everything in the whole world to prove to everyone else that even down here is just as empty and just as vast. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Karen Shubert, and I was born in Portsmouth. Like worker ants, we scavenge lumber, nails, roofing tile, an unraveling rug, cracked window. My garage makes the back wall. It's 2-story with a dirt floor, but we want to be upstairs, heave ourselves through the door like seals onto ice. The kerosene lantern stinks. Small kids aren't strong enough to open the deadbolt, but we let them in after us. No one can tell we're in there unless we howl with laughter. A girl from school drives by with her dad, sees black smoke. Mom backs our car out, but Craig's family is visiting Ohio, new Buick trapped in the shared garage. Firefighters break the fort into pieces. Kids watch from Scott's yard, asking each other, what happened? Thinking they'll never let us do it again. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie Troutman, and both of these poems are about Southwestern Ohio landmarks. This first one is called The Remains of Eden, and it has a note that the Reverend Edmund Landon West in 1908 proposed that the Great Serpent Mound in Adams County, Ohio, was the literal site of the biblical Garden of Eden. So, The Remains of Eden. Yes, I could be tempted here, Reverend. I could be convinced to eat only native fruits, to spit the seeds back to the earth and tend to what sprouts there, thoroughly as I tend to what births from my hips, what winds its way in from tiny serpent-like cells in my deep darkness, what wriggles its way out again to swallow what fruits of mine I offer its mouth. Yes, I can see how someone and I might be coaxed into lying in the sculpted green of this cliffside amongst all the trees of paradise, the warm strength of Earth's centuries below, ceaseless wavering of stars above, and in between, 4 rivers joined and rushing like my own blood, ultimately outward. And this was after Hocking Hills State Park in Logan, Ohio, Rock House. My daughters climb, the older girl's arm extended, hovering behind the younger's lower back in case of stumbling. They disappear into the rock house's sweeping yawn, condensation trickling down sandstone, never finishing its epic's long, wet erosion. They trail fingertips on stone walls in which Adena women once baked bread. Their rubber soles step over dips where Delaware burnt logs sap into turpentine. Day long, we've hiked through winding mossy corridors and wooded trails crisscrossed in tree roots like bootlaces down, cliffsides terraced barely deep enough for footholds, too focused on center of gravity to look up and spot the birds whose voices call out. The girls are shadowed in echoes of earth and womb, where once thieves and bootleggers hid, curled against cold stone. Imagine how easily an arrowed army or SWAT team could swarm down from rock ledges above, cornering those who shiver here in this pit of earth. If the girls called to me from the echoes, would I be able to discern their voices from all the others?
Oh, my goodness. My goodness. This is our presentation for the evening. I'd like to apologize for my emotional outburst. I'm so sorry. I hope it didn't taint those beautiful poems, but I certainly want to thank all of our poets tonight, and I think we need to give them a big round of applause for their wonderful, wonderful reading. I don't know if we have any questions from those who are attending. If you'd like to ask a question of any of our readers, we certainly have a few minutes to do that. Or you could.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment that as a poet, I never apologize for an emotional outburst because this is what makes us poets.
Thank you, John. Yeah. And we all miss Susan so very much.
I never had the pleasure of knowing her.
Yeah, many of us are blowing our noses right now, but we're very happy to have been able to include her in this collection. Such important work, important words.
I noticed something interesting that some of the places in Ohio that were mentioned, like McMinn County and there was another place I forgot, are also very near me. In fact, I lived in McMinn County, Tennessee for quite a few years. So I said, oh, there's another unintentional connection.
Small world with us Appalachians.
Yeah.
I want to remind you all that tonight, if you buy the book, you do get a discount price for those of you visiting who have not purchased it yet. We thank you for the support. It'll keep us going. If any of you would like a reading in your town, you can reach out through my website, KariGunter-Seymour-Poet.com. I do my best to try to accommodate. I'm actually scheduling for late fall or next year at this point. Other than that, I'd love again to thank my poets and thank all of you for coming out. Haley, did you have anything else you'd like to share?
No, I just like to thank you all for the great event on behalf of Ohio University Southern and of course Sheila-Na-Gig Edition. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
And
thank you all.
And just a reminder too that Sheila-Na-Gig takes submissions all year long for the online journal. So those of you who are looking for publication, it's a wonderful journal. And those of you who are not looking for publication, but some amazing poetry to read, Sheila-Na-Gig Online is for you. And Haley also publishes many prominent authors, and you may want to look through her entire book list while you're ordering.
You, Kari. This is why I need a publicist.
Oh, thank you all so much for coming. And again, all the events are listed on my website, KariGunter-Seymour-Poet.com. Click on the I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing button. It will take you to all the information about the book and all of the places we will be reading. And I can tell you this, there are 134 poets. So chances are you will rarely hear the same poet reading at every event. I mean, there's no way you will. And so you will hear new poets each time you attend. So do join us for a live event if you're able. And if not, we will be virtually again on May the 18th at Ohio University Multicultural Center. And you can find that information on the website. So thank you all so much. Please be safe. Remain vigilant, everyone.
Thank you, Kari.
We will see you soon.